Hello guys, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel and check it out. I'm finally back on camera making another video. So I say that because obviously I have not been uploading for about 2 weeks on the channel here. Been really busy, had some things going on. Also, strangely, just haven't felt very motivated to even make a video or talk about any topics. Nothing very exciting has kind of popped into my brain the past 2 weeks, so it's a combination of being busy with work, being busy with music, being busy with my life, not being motivated to do YouTube, or not finding exciting stories or things to talk about, just all sorts of stuff. But I'm back today, and that's what's most important, because now there is a very cool topic that I want to talk about, and as you guys know, it has to do with Metroid. So of course, as you can tell from the title of the video, we are now revisiting the Metroid Dread sales conversation, which has been a pretty interesting story to watch unfold since the game released last October. We're really not all that far away, you guys, from the 1-year anniversary. In fact, we're only 2 months away from the 1-year anniversary, which is just mind-blowing when you really think about it. Either way, the sales and the success of this game has always been a very interesting thing for a lot of us to follow, and many of us who are Metroid fans and Nintendo fans have been very invested in seeing how successful Metroid Dread would become. And of course, at the end of the day, the sales news for Metroid Dread is spectacularly fantastic. We almost couldn't ask for a better scenario, because not only has it sold extremely well, it also, in just 6 months' time, became the best-selling game in the Metroid franchise. And even though the numbers aren't as big as Super Smash Bros. And Animal Crossing and Pokemon and Mario, it's still incredibly impressive. It's a lot of units of sales. I guarantee you, this game has made millions upon millions of dollars in profit for Nintendo, and it's just an unmitigated hit. And again, for those of us who have been following the Metroid franchise and are passionately invested in it like I am and a lot of you guys are, it is a big deal to see this game be successful because we only want it to continue. It is such a high-quality franchise that it was really important for this game to be a hit. It didn't even have to become the best-selling Metroid game ever to be a hit, but it has done that in just 6 months' time, which means the future is incredibly bright for Metroid. So even though we have this amazing milestone that we can put in the, this feather that we can put in the cap of Metroid, so to speak, as far as the sales milestone, there's, of course, another sales-related story that we need to talk about, and it's this, I'm going to call it fun, okay? I'm going to use the word fun, and hopefully you guys agree with me here. It's this fun topic about whether or not Metroid Dread would specifically hit the mark of 3 million units sold or not. And there's some details to that again are part of the fun thing, and I'll get into that in a minute. But it's really not the focus of the conversation for me, because as a Metroid fan, I'm more just focused on the game and the franchise and its success. Not the fun internet thing that we're all having a good time with, although again, I will touch on that in a minute. It's just about seeing my favorite franchise, and for a lot of you Metroid fans, probably your favorite franchise, it's about seeing it hit milestones. We'd like to see it hit 3 million. We want to see it hit 5 million. We'd love to see it hit higher than that. Now, I don't think Metroid Dread has any chance at selling more than 5 million units, at least on just the Switch. If we get re-releases and a next-gen Metroid Dread Deluxe or something in a couple of years on the next console, I mean, that could change the conversation. But when we look at just the current 2021 Metroid Dread game on the 2017 Switch hardware, I don't really see that game hitting that 5 million milestone in its lifetime, which is sad, but also not that sad because, as I've already laid out in the beginning of the video here, the game's already a big hit in its own right, and that's all that really matters. But we bring it back to the 3 million unit conversation and whether or not we're going to see it hit at least that milestone. For some reason, that just became this specific gauge or barometer, I would say, of sales that we wanted to see this game hit. Can it at least hit 3 million? Metroid Prime was previously the best-selling game in the franchise, which is awesome because, as you know, it's my favorite video game ever made. And that was like 2.84 or something million units, I believe, sold in its lifetime. And so Metroid Dread has surpassed that, but has it yet surpassed the 3 million mark, which is only a smidge more than what Metroid Prime sold? Well, that's what I want to continue to talk with you guys about today. So of course we need to talk about what we do know about Metroid Dread's sales so far. We recently did have the newest quarterly investors update from Nintendo in terms of all of their sales, their hardware sales, and their best-selling games and whatnot so far. We can talk about that for a quick minute because obviously one of the big stories coming out from that is the fact that the Nintendo Switch through Q2 of 2022, which of course ends on June 30th, the last day of June, the Nintendo Switch has sold 111 million units, which is awesome. I mean, it's just crushing it. It's, one of the few consoles and pieces of hardware to sell more than 100 million units in its lifetime. Obviously, the Switch still has several more years in its tank. Even though I obviously think it's going to overlap with next-gen hardware, I don't think the Switch is going away in the next year or two. I still think it has many more years of Nintendo supporting it and people buying it. And so, yeah, we could be looking at a Nintendo Switch that ends up, getting up to 130, 150 million units in its lifetime, maybe even becoming the best-selling hardware ever. So it's great to see it cross another milestone, 111 million units. That's fantastic. Now, part of this story has to do with the declining sales, okay? I think it was down 22 or 23% from the year prior. So Switch is still selling very well, and there's talk about part shortages, and I do think that that is a small part of it. But also, at some point, you've just sold your device to enough people, and it might have been on the market for so long that sales will just slow naturally. People in the Switch era, for some reason, have not been willing to accept that very natural and obvious fact, but it was always going to happen. Switch sales were always going to start to slow down, right? PS2 is the best-selling console of all time. Those sales eventually slowed down, and they eventually stopped making it. I mean, that's what happens, and I think that we're in the phase of seeing the Switch start to do that. Maybe it's happening a little bit faster because of some of the part shortages, but I also think most of the slowing down of sales is just the natural timeline of hardware and generations in video game consoles, you guys. So we're seeing that, but again, this video and topic really isn't about necessarily the Switch's sales. It is just worth bringing up this topic because I think it's cool to see it at 111 million units. We've seen the other best-selling Nintendo Switch titles so far, and it's all the obvious players. Mario Kart and Animal Crossing and Breath of the Wild, all just killing it. The Switch is just a money printing machine, and it's also just a game printing machine. I mean, it's got such a fantastic library of some of the best games ever made, really. So on that front, Nintendo is just killing it. Now, as far as Metroid Dread and its sales go, though, right, because that's the focus here, what we do know is, again, the game launched on October 8th, 2021, and in just about 2 months and 3 weeks, almost, a little bit less than 3 months, that game, by the end of 2021, December 31st, sold 2.74 million units, I believe, which is awesome. It in and of itself sold almost 3 million units in just the first 3 months on store shelves. That's incredible. Then we got the first quarter update sales total through the beginning of 2022, and in its first 6 months, it had sold a total of 2.9 million units, which is awesome, and as I said, made it the best-selling Metroid game of all time, right? And at that point, as of the end of March 2022, less than 6 months on store shelves, it only had 100,000 more units it needed to sell to cross 3 million units, right? And so we then got the next quarter update of Nintendo sales, but the big conversation as far as Metroid goes is the fact that we didn't get the next sales update for Metroid Dread because it was already 6 months past. They've already been able to announce the incredible milestone of the best-selling Metroid game of all time. It's no longer in the top 10 best-selling Switch games for that quarter. And so it didn't become part of their investors briefing and their sales update briefing, which is unfortunate because we all want to see the sales total. And by we all, I mean Metroid fans like me and you. We want to see the sales total for Metroid Dread, and unfortunately we didn't get it because that's just what happened. I thought for sure they would keep updating throughout the first year, but Nintendo didn't do that, and that is normal for them. They do stop reporting out of the top 10 after the first, couple of months or first 6 months on the market or whatever. So we didn't get it because it's obviously not in the top 10 anymore, which is fine. So where that leaves us is in a bit of a mystery. We don't really know what Metroid Dread's current total sales are. From the end of March to the end of June, that second quarter of the year, did Metroid Dread manage to sell another 100,000 units? We don't know. I think there is a great chance that it did. Now, obviously, sales had slowed because it released in October and in 3 months did 2.7 million. And then in the next quarter, it only did another, like, what, 200,000, right? So in the first 3 months, we went from 2.7 million to only 200,000 in the second 3 months, right? And this is approximate. I don't remember the exact numbers, but those are the ballparks. 2.7, 200,000. That's what it did in, quarter 1 to quarter 2 of its life being available. And so naturally that means by the time you get to quarter 3, it's going to sell probably even slower, right? Because it didn't have the Christmas holiday boom that it had when it first launched in October last year. So, did it sell 100,000 in quarter 2? Maybe, maybe not. But what I feel very confident saying is that it damn near got close if it didn't already do it. Which means if we consider where we are right now, which is in the very beginning of August, several months past the end of quarter 2, do we think it's already hit 3 million units sold as of right now, the day I'm recording this on August 7th? Again, we don't know, but I'm going to say yes, man. I just don't believe we live in a world where a game is popular and well-reviewed and successful and just fantastic as Metroid Dread after its insanely good sales in the first quarter of its life at the end of 2021. There's no way that it hasn't sold 100,000 units from March 31st, 2022 to August 7th, 2022. Basically another 5 months. That game has sold another 100,000 units. Obviously, I don't have exact numbers to show you. No one does. So anyone who says it has sold 3 million, like I am, I can't prove it to you. Anyone who says it hasn't sold 3 million also can't prove it to you because, again, the numbers don't exist. If I don't have those numbers to show you for my argument, someone with the opposite feeling doesn't have the numbers to show you to support their argument. I think that there's more in my favor, though, or I should say there's more in the favor of the 3 million sales when you just look at the trajectory of sales. When you look at quarter 1 to quarter 2 to where we are in quarter 3 of Metroid Dread's life, and the fact that by the end of March it was already only needing 100,000 units to sell to hit 3 million, I mean, you're just never going to convince me that in the 5 months after it hasn't already sold more than 100,000 units. So in my world, I'm going to say 90% sure that that game has already crossed 3 million units. Now, of course, I want to quickly touch on the fun element, right? And that is that RGT85, Sean Long, who I guess I don't know if I could say that we're buddies exactly, but we know each other. I've been on the podcast, the Spawncast with him like, 10 or 15 times before. We chat a lot online. He's a great dude, and he's been very much at the center of this fun bet he made with the regular Spawncast crew about whether or not Dread would sell 3 million units in the first year on store shelves, and if Nintendo themselves would even report these numbers. That's kind of the big crux of his whole argument here, and he's, having fun, pretending like he's maybe claiming that he's already won the bet, even though there's still time to see if he's right or not. And I think it's all harmless fun, and Sean is also a great fan of the game, and so I think he's just kind of giving people shit, and he's just kind of running along with it, just like a lot of us have been for the past several months. And so the last time I talked about the Metroid Dread sales thing, I even briefly touched on the whole fun thing with RGT's bet and everything. And I'll reiterate what I said at that time, which is that at the end of the day, it's fun to talk about it and engage in it and give Sean shit, and Sean gets to give everyone else shit. Is he right? Is he wrong? Is it 3 million? Is it not 3 million? I mean, that's the whole fun thing, and he gets to make some great, fun, entertaining videos out of it, and we all just get to kind of enjoy engaging with it, and it really has captured a lot of people's attention. I think that's why it's worth bringing up, right? Because people are very focused and will he have to play Balan Wonderland or not? Did it sell 3 million? Did it not? Is he right? Is he wrong? That's the fun conversation about it. And I think it just added a lot more of a focus on that 3 million unit sales barometer that already existed. Because I think that even without the fun story of his bet about that game's sales, I think everyone was already laser focused on 3 million. I was talking about the 3 million mark before the game even came out, before Sean even made that bet. So, and I'm not the only one. So I think that there was already kind of a focus on hitting that 3 million. And then he added some fuel to the fire, and again, in a fun way, about the bet and the Balan thing and all that stuff. So I just think it's worth kind of bringing that up. I just want to say that even though, you know, I, just like everyone, will have fun kind of just talking about that story and everyone's giving each other crap about who's right and who's wrong, I don't actually care about Sean's bet, you know, and obviously that's no offense to Sean. He's a great guy. I just care about Metroid. I just care about Metroid sales. I don't want it to hit 3 million so that Sean has to play a shitty game that he doesn't like. It's fun to like talk about it, but I don't really care what happens there. I care that Metroid as a franchise, my favorite franchise, and Samus, my favorite character, I care that it hits 3 million unit sales for itself. Not for a fun internet bet and a meme and a goof online. I care about it for the sake of Samus and Metroid, and for what the message it sends to Nintendo, right? And we already have Retro Studios cranking away at Metroid Prime 4. We're waiting for that update. We're waiting for that trailer and that release date, and I'm waiting to see if my prediction turns out to be right, that it's going to be a cross-gen release for next-gen and current-gen Switch, hopefully before the end of next year. Sounds like a lofty goal, but that's just what I'm kind of predicting right now and guessing. And so, you know, Metroid, I think, is on the right path. Dread is incredibly successful, the most successful Metroid game of all time. Metroid Prime 4 is around the corner. Very likely could be hyping up next-generation hardware at the same time that it releases. I think that Prime 4 is going to sell even better than Metroid Dread. I think it's going to be a better game than Metroid Dread, and Metroid Dread to me is damn near perfect anyway. So it's just a long-winded way for me to say that everything looks great for Metroid. It looks great for Metroid Dread. You ask me, I'm going to Vegas. What am I putting my money down on? Dread has already crossed $3 million, sir. That's what I'm putting down. The house does not win today. Rob wins today. Dread has already crossed $3 million. I am sure of it. But we have to wait until we get those official numbers. Do we get the numbers before October 8th? Does Sean have to play Balan? Does he not? I don't know, and I don't really care, even though I do enjoy kind of watching how it all plays out. And, you know, the videos he makes about it are definitely a lot of fun. So that's what I have to say about that, man. It's fun times talking about Metroid, seeing what's up with Metroid Dread right now and the sales situation. And so I obviously want to hear if you guys think the game crossed 3 million or not. Talk about whatever you think. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review. I will catch you on another video. Bye-bye.